Today I'm going to be showing you how to make custom carrying cases out of cardboard. Cardboard is an ideal material because it's light, cheap, in many cases free, and very strong and durable if used properly. You can add a lot of character and customization, and it's very form-fitting, so you can make pretty much any kind of box you want out of it. What I have here are pieces of cardboard that I've scavenged, a ruler, razor blade, pencil, and wood glue. This is all you need for this project. You can find a lot of cardboard in discarded boxes and packages that come to you that you would normally recycle in cardboard dumpsters. You can even go to most stores that have cardboard, like restaurants or grocery stores or Walmart, and ask them what day is their deboxing day, and ask if you can have their extra boxes, and they will give them to you. So you can get lots of boxes that way. So cardboard is pretty much an infinite, free, cheap resource, and many of the cardboard types that you can get will even have different material looks to them, like advertisements and such, that you can use to further customize your design. Apple boxes, for instance, are an incredibly good source of cardboard, so you can cut up an apple box and make a very trendy looking case, or you can take a more motley approach and get something that way. I'm using this cardboard that I found around my studio from extras projects from art pieces, and let's go ahead and get started. So you could use this case for any kind of carrying you need, and you could design it any way that you want. But I am specifically designing a case to hold miniatures from a Warhammer 40k army, just because that's a thing that is really expensive. I mean, when you go online and you look at buying the cardboard cases for it even, and they have cardboard cases, the foam inserts that you need for them are like in the 50s of dollars. And we can do a much better job than they are already doing. Make it much more convenient to get your armies out, make it much safer, much better, more your own, and like I said, almost free. So I am using a Tau army, and I've looked at all the models, and as far as the standard models go, the largest one is about 7.5 inches deep, and then it is, I don't know, 10 or 12 inches wide-ish. So we're going to make our cases 8 by 16 at each level. These are multi-leveled cases. So 8 by 16 should be able to accommodate pretty much anything that can go into it.
So the first step is to lay out the bottom of your box. You're going to take the cardboard that you have and pull out of it the dimensions that you're going to be able to use. I'm going to use an 8-inch wide because that is our requirement to be able to fit the largest model, and then 23 inches is about how long this piece is, and it looks really good. So that's where I'm going to cut it at. You want to be extra careful with the cutting because otherwise you'll be wasting cardboard, although I'm going to show you how to reuse almost all the cardboard over and over again in a different entire series of cardboard projects. So when you're cutting, make sure to measure first, draw out your complete rectangle that you intend to cut, and then hold the ruler. And you're going to need a long metal ruler for this, or some kind of long straight edge. You can use a scrap board, but a long metal ruler is best. And hold that on the line you're going to cut, and measure it up very carefully. And then take your razor blade and cut down the line while holding the metal straight edge in place. This will give you a clean, straight cut, and cannot be overstated the importance of this particular technique. It's pretty much the primary technique we'll be using throughout this construction process. Now with our bottom cut, we're going to go ahead and cut our sides. So the bottom of the box is going to be the total footprint. We want the walls to fit inside of that because that will give the most strength when it's seated on that bottom, because the bottom's going to set into another box beneath it. This means that we need to cut off and remove roughly 1/8 of an inch for each layer of cardboard. I like to have each layer overlap just a little bit so that it's the strongest, so I cut 1/8 of an inch off each and then rotate when it's assembled. After each series of cuts, check the piece that you've made versus the piece that you already have. This is the best way to measure. A measuring can always get off if you use a ruler, but if you hold one piece up to the other, and then you mark where they come together, there's really no way for that measurement to be wrong. So measure twice, cut once is great, but if possible, don't measure at all. Just put the two together and mark off where it actually goes. With all of your materials cut, it's time to attach the sides. Put a nice thick long bead of glue down one side and then hold it in place until it will stand on its own. It takes a few minutes. I like to have a movie or something going in the background so I have something to watch. Once the first side is up, we take a second side and put glue on both the bottom and on the part that's going to connect with the other wall, and then you hold that in place, and we continue doing that until all 4 walls are up. Next we place what I call bandage strips in the corners of the box to secure it and make it extra strong. And all this is this is the thick paper on either side of the cardboard, then we've torn it off from the corrugation, we've just ripped it off. And then put it in a bucket made up of water with just a tiny bit of glue and let it soak for about 5 minutes. I just make these as I'm going, fill the bucket up so that I always have some ready. We're going to take a bunch of strips out, cut them to 2 inches in width, and then we're going to use them to line each of the corners, both horizontally and vertically. When they dry, the complete glue saturation will harden them, and it will really, really increase the durability of your box. Now in this case, we want a really clean seal. So we're not only going to wet the bandages down and soak them, but we're going to put a layer of wood glue on it and then spread that nice and thickly over it, and that will keep a nice tight seal. Once your bottom tray is made, you're going to want to measure it, make sure that everything came out exactly the way that you wanted it to. Then mark in the middle a 1-inch line all the way around the box for the next layer of the sides.
Alright, so now we're moving on to the second drawer. To do this, remove everything delicate and flip it upside down and close it. So this is our bottom, our leveraged in bottom. We want to build this on the existing piece to guarantee a perfect fit so that it will slide in and slide out. So I'm out of long enough pieces to make full-size walls, so we're going to be doing everything with the kind of piecemeal structure that the top lid is made with. Now, I went ahead and cut this wall, and this is 4 inches. And so what that is there's an inch inset here that will be empty space. Then there'll be the top layer of an inch, a bottom layer of an inch, and an inch in the middle that the unit fits in. Now, they're not quite only an inch wide, but the foam gives a lot on both sides, so it'll keep them completely immobilized. So we're just going to hold this thing up here, and we're going to, I have 2 corners, so we're going to hold the corners up here, and we're not going to glue on the inside of these pieces like we did last time. This time, we're going to use just brackets like this at this stage, because we don't want to get glue on the inside, and it has to have a very smooth, clean up and down action. Alright, so that's our goal. So these are the cardboard brackets, and that's what it looks like glued. It's just 4 inches of cardboard with one of our V's cut into it, and then we put glue down the V and over the piece, and we close it and slap it on the corner, and that's what these are that hold these corners together. So we're going to go ahead and add the next layer on and slap that on it. Alright, so now we're going to make a bend. There's a couple different ways to make this bend, but what's important for this one is this line is where the lid needs to go to, so we can't cut behind this line. So we're going to make a 45-degree angled incision right here with the blade cutting along the line point. So we're going to start from this end. Like that. See, we haven't broken through here again. And then we're going to reverse, go out maybe 1/8 of an inch-ish, and again in at 45-degree angle, and just bring it down the length. And again, we're not breaking the skin on the paper on the back. And then we peel out this, and you see these triangular sections. So it creates this nice triangular gap that we can then use and fold to make the corner. And there we go, our beautifully installed bracket, sitting exactly like we want it to. So again, like I said, we don't have enough, so we're going to just cut an extra size piece, and then we'll put one of the blocks like we did on the roof here. To close these gaps that we're creating, we're going to use something that looks like the exact same as the hinge, but just reversed. So we're going to place that over the seam. So what this is just a 2-inch piece with one of those triangle cuts out of it so that it curves. And it's going to be glued on over that seam to make the lid one strong unit and give it kind of a clasp, ancient chest kind of a look. The key is you can't extend it past the bottom line because that needs to be set in so that we can sit another block on top of it. And you don't want to extend it past this direction because it'll make it tricky to close the box. But as long as it's exactly this 4-inch width, we're good to go. So here's our second tier. Right now it's just the ring, no floor. It comes up and goes down nice and easily. Make sure you leave just a little bit of wiggle room when you're building this. You don't want it super tight. It'll be very hard to get it in and out if it is super tight. So this is 3 inches, and then we have the same 2-inch inset from before, only again this time we're building it backwards. So now that this is in, you want to go ahead and cut 2-inch sections that will fit these side spaces, and you want to measure down 7/8 of an inch. And the reason for that is the floor of this, the cardboard's going to sit on it, and cardboard is 1/8 of an inch thick, and we want a 1/inch overhang here. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I have this line marked off. I'm going to put glue on it and then take it down exactly to that line. And then we'll glue it in place. And then we'll move on and go around. Now, we can't put patches on the outside like we did like we have on the other rings because we need it to not be three-dimensional. And we don't want to do it on the inside because there's no benefit to that. It's not visually appealing and it's just going to get covered in foam and it's going to take up space. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use our tear-off paper, create small strips like we did in the original bottom, and use it to gap the corners and any other gap you may have. We're just going to really bandage it all the way around until we have the whole thing set up, and then we're going to do the put the bottom on and then go inside and run the corners in the same kind of bandaging strip once again. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add all these pieces and then I'll show you the bottom. Here we go. Inside ring is complete, and even though it's made of different pieces, it's kind of hard to see them. I mean, they're there, but they're pretty minute. Now every break has one of those bandages on it, and every corner has a bandage on it, which is also a break. So now we're going to put a bottom on this, and again, we don't have any long pieces left, so what we're going to do is we're just going to cut strips and run it from side to side, and we're going to put glue on the track here, here, and here, and then on the sides where the pieces join together. And we're just going to set the bottom on there. And then once it dries, we're going to let it dry on here so that it gets the correct square shape. Once it dries, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to take the bottom part here off, and then we're going to go in and we're going to put bandages between these two, and between this and the bottom, and across each of the bottom strips that we have to add. So I'm going to add the bottom next, and then I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll let that dry, and then we'll do the next step. Turns out I had one last big piece of cardboard, so I use that as the bottom because I'm for making things as easy as possible. Although I'm going to do a third rack, and the third rack will probably have to use a split bottom because I'm definitely, well, not 100%, but probably out of cardboard this time. So you can see I have the interior bandages just like before. This drawer is done now with this stage. It's ready to be had the foam inserts put into it and see what troops it can hold. So for your top box construction, when you get to the lid, is going to be a little bit different. We're going to build a lid component, and I've also run out of large pieces of cardboard. I'm just down to small bits. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting the cardboard together very Motley style to make these kind of bracket shapes. And it'll be really attractive and very strong, but again allow us to continue to use the free material we have rather than purchasing new clean sheets. So you can see this is how the lid is going to work, right? So it's a very attractive component, I think. It's a very functional component, certainly. And I'm going to show you how to build one of these on the other side, and then how we're going to fill in the middle. So I have this strip of cardboard, and that's what I made this piece out of. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure the cardboard here from the distance from the bracket to the top, and we're going to put just a thin cut through the material, and then we're going to break it. So for whatever reason, our corner here didn't come out quite straight, so we're just going to mark that off with some pencil, flip it over, and cut off the excess. So what I did is I chose a size that I like for this closing clasp, right? And I then doubled that and cut out a square of double that width. Then I measured out one little square, which is going to be the front tab here on the cardboard. Now we're going to cut it clean through on this middle space, and on the bottom space we're going to do one of those V cuts where we start at this line. So we do not cut past this line, we cut inward this direction, creating a V here. Then we will glue and fold this, cut off the extra here, and then measure how long it needs to be and cut it clean with the back of the box. And then we'll be able to put it on as a corner. Alright, so as you can see, we removed the extra square we didn't need. We have the square bend joint, glued it before it fit 90-degree angle, and then we cut down the middle and cut out one of our V's, and then I just beveled off this corner here. And so then we're just going to put glue on the top and side interior surface, but not this, because that goes against nothing, see? And we're going to put glue on it, and then we'll fold it over on this corner and let it dry, and we will have our corner. And there's our nice clean corner, and you can see we have one on both sides. So now all we have to do is repeat the process we used for making this infill to fill this last piece, and we have the first layer of the box complete, minus straps and holding gear, that kind of deal. Alright, so our box is all assembled, and now we're ready to put our foam in it. There's two more components that we didn't have earlier, which is going to be our 1-inch thick open cell foam and foam glue. These are the two components you're going to have to buy. It's about $20 total. $20 total for infinite flexibility and an unlimited number of boxes is a heck of a lot better than anything I've seen online for $50 for one preset made set. So the first thing we're going to do is just cut a bottom and top square. So we're going to cut a square out of this that will fit in the bottom space, and then another one that will fit in the top space, and we're going to leave a little bit of a gap around the top here so that it can close easily still. It's pretty simple, just measure your rectangles, cut it out, and glue it in. I'll show you what that's supposed to look like. Alright, and here we go. So again, I put the foam on the top and the bottom, and then I cut side strips, and then I created spaces based on the units. So for example, for the devilfish here, I put a wall at the end, and then I put in spacers around it until it sits perfectly snugly, but easily picks up and goes back in. Still drying a little bit, so I'm trying not to touch it too badly. Same thing for the broadsides. I left a little extra room around my broadside because I intend to either upgrade to the larger models eventually or kind of bulk these out with modifications I'm going to do to them. So I wanted a little bit of extra space, but it's a very tall unit because of the shoulder-mounted railguns, so it belongs in this box. Now I made this box a little bit bigger than I needed to. Really, we could have done it right here. So I made this box 7 inches from bottom to top, and we could probably cut out about 1.5 inches of that, and we'd still have plenty of room for everything that I wanted in here. And I'm also going to be getting a tank eventually, so I've left this space to put the tank in, because this is the heavy unit vehicle kind of section of my box, because the troop units are so much smaller, the next level of the box is going to be very short and pretty easy to see how it works. So I went ahead and decided to utilize that extra space. So all this is a square of foam, and then I razor bladed 3 lines in the foam, and this works amazingly. You just bring the little unit down and press it into the razor blade, and it just completely sticks to it. And then this is cut to the size of the extra space that I created, and they go in here, and then the lid closes. So interesting little idiosyncrasy of this box. I accidentally made it lock open and lock close, which is amazing, but totally unintentional. I don't know if you'll be able to replicate it. So here's what the finished box looked like. I did a little bit of kind of eccentricities here just to make it look a little bit nicer. I think it's a pretty handsome looking box. I haven't painted it yet, which I'm going to do. But so as you can see, all of these are cut directly down the ribbing like this, except for this one. This one I cut the ribbing sideways, so the ribbing runs the opposite direction here, so it runs one long way, so you can see there's no breaks. And apparently when you do that, this rib becomes a form of a locking mechanism. And this is about a quarter of the total length, and it is sufficient to allow me to do this, which is really cool. So it goes up, and then it just pops and locks in place as if it was mechanical. So I think that's actually replicable for anyone else out there. If not, it'll at least open, but it won't stay open on its own. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this box came out. And now I'm going to build the second lower shelf to house the rest of my troop units. So the design on the top of your box and your own personal preference is going to dictate how exactly you want to make this handle. Since I have these two equidistant kind of perfect flat lines, I'm going to go ahead and run my handle from the outside to the outside, because we're going to put a little square block on here to block it off and hold it in place, and having them on the outside will give me a nice, neat look. So the first thing you do is you cut your tape. My towel set has light blue as its signature color, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. You can use whatever color you want or you think is appropriate to whatever you're doing. There's about 1 billion colors of duct tape. You can even use camo tape, whatever floats your boat. So you cut out a piece that you need it to be longer than the space that we're covering. It's going to have to go inside the box a little bit, and we want some extra space so it's not completely strapped tight against the box. The looser you leave this tape, the more curved and more space your handle will have. So then you do something really simple, which is you just take the tape and you bend it over in thirds. So there's our first fold. It doesn't have to be even thirds. The real goal is just to get rid of any stickiness and to have both sides be a folded edge. So there's my finished folded handle. Now we're going to make the incisions in the box to put it through. So try and follow the old saw, measure twice, cut once. I measured this out, and I got it wrong, and when I remeasured it I realized I had to move it over 1/2 inch. So this is the final correct measurements. These are right here, dead center in the middle of the box, and equal distance from this center point. So I'm just going to cut a very thin incision right here up close next to this piece. So there's our cut, and we're just going to take one side of our folded handle tape and press it into that cut. Now I made a fairly sizable mistake here. I put the foam in because I was excited before I put the handle in. Don't do that. Now if you do that, it's not a big deal. You can very carefully peel the foam up and give you access to the handle slit so we can pull the tape through like we're supposed to. But we're going to have to re-glue down the sides of this when we're done. So for right now, I'm going to move on and put the other slit in. Now with both sides in, we go ahead and adjust the pull and the tightness. That's where we want. Ideally, the amount of overhang on both sides, underside, should be the same. And then you have a nice little place for your hand to go right here. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And we're just going to take a tab of the same exact duct tape and put it across it to hold it in place. So there we are, tab of duct tape holding it in place on both sides. Now we can lift the entire box very easily by this handle. But we're still going to do a couple other things. First of all, we're going to need a closed tab here on the front of the box, similar to the ones we built over here. In fact, identical, but they're going to be going downwards instead of upwards. And we're going to need to put tabs on the end here. We don't have to, but I want to. I think it'll look real nice. So again, we're using our standard wood glue, and I've cut these 2 by 2 inch squares. This one I already glued in place, so you can see what we're going for. So then this one has glue on it, and then we're just going to take it, and we're going to put it kind of center of mass right here, and then you just swivel it back and forth a little bit and press it tight until it sticks, and then there you go. That's what you're looking for. That was a little messier than normal because I was doing it one-handed while I was using the camera, but I think you generally get the idea. So now our top is completely on, and we're ready to build our clasp. Now for the clasp, we have a 2 inch square, and then a 1 5/8 inch by 2 inch rectangle, and a 3" by 2" rectangle so that we have a complete double square. So this is the shape of the unit we're going to use. Now I'm going to go back to my white tape because I want all my clasps to be white and light blue. Those are pretty much the colors of my army. So I get my white tape here, and we're going to do the same thing as on the sides, which is to say we need a piece of tape that's permanently on the box on this lower side, just as a placeholder to stop the tape from tearing the box up. And then for the rest of these pieces, we're going to wrap the tape in and around, and I'll show you how that goes. Alright, so building on our mistakes from last time, we didn't really have enough tape to paper grip to make it a super strong piece. So we're going to start with our larger top section, and we're going to put it about halfway down on this duct tape. Now what that will do is that'll leave a significant section on this side for the wood glue and still give plenty of grip on the tape. Now to put this all together, we just coat our bottom piece in wood glue. Take our very small piece, press it on to the bottom, like so. And then take our larger piece with tape, flip it so the sticky side is down, and put the cardboard sticky side is up, and put the cardboard flat to the piece, press it together again, wipe it off, and then when it dries, cut off any overlap you may have accidentally created right there. And then that is your completed clasp. So first we lay down our protective duct tape layer. So this is just a piece of duct tape that starts on the front and goes over to the back. That's going to stop our duct tape latch from tearing up our more delicate cardboard. So remember though that there's about 1.5 inch overhang here on this closing lid. So that much is going to be cut off, and then we want to leave about a little less than 2 inches space. So that's what we got going on. Now again, I forgot to do this until after, so I had to peel back the board a little bit, but it should just be fine. It shouldn't be a big deal. And what we're going to do is we are going to put our clasp against here, and the sticky side is going to be out. So to attach it to this box, we have to take a second piece of duct tape and go across the sticky side. And it's got to secure it, but it's also got to take the second tape right to this line here, because otherwise, if there's any sticky down in here, it won't open. You won't be able to remove the latch. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, so it's installed now. So what you see we got in here, try and get you a good look, is we have the piece of tape comes over and down inside. It has a cross piece of tape holding it steady. Then we have an opposite facing piece of tape coming up on to cover up the sticky side so that it won't grab before we want it to grab. And you'll see that the lip starts right at the edge of here. So now we can close that, bring this closed. There we go. Press our tab. And there you go. It's now completely self-supporting. Front tab, 2 side tabs, and a handle. Now you can make as many layers as you want in this box. I actually have a 3rd layer prep that I'm going to build later, so it's going to come down to here. Should all be good, should all stay together. That's my box, and my total cost was $20. That includes the foam. If you're doing a project that doesn't require foam or have any foam ingredients or requirements, then it's even less. The actual cost for the box was $0 for me. I had recycled cardboard that I located in dumpsters. I had some duct tape lying around. I had some wood glue lying around. $0 box. What you put inside of it, now that is an expensive proposition. Right, so now we're going to do some of the side tabs. I originally tried to put square blocks like I have on the top, which I think is really attractive, but gravity was working against me and it just did not work. They kept not falling off, they just looked really shabby. So we're going to do this differently, and we're going to do a little bit cleaner because, again, I've had more experience. So what I did now is I took one piece of tape and another piece of tape, and I put a tiny bit of them back to back. So we still have a sticky part here, and we have a long sticky part here. Put the sticky part, short sticky part, on the inside of the box, making sure that it stays completely to the non-sticky area past all the edges so that there's no chance of it catching later. And we take our top piece of tape and put it on first, nice and centered. Then we drop it down and put a little bit of measurement mark on our bottom, and that's where we're going to make sure it matches up with. So nice and easy, simple and clean, very easy to do. So there we go, in like that. And now again, we're going to take a bunch of layers of tape and go sideways across this bad boy. I did one piece of tape, but it's a nice big wide piece of tape, so the more tape you have, the stronger it is. I'm using these really light models, so it's not much of an issue. If you are putting something heavy in here, like, I don't know, Magic the Gathering cards, you're going to need a hell of a lot more tape. In fact, tape may not do it if this is books or Magic the Gathering cards. Sorry, but some things are just too heavy. Alright, now we put our box back on top. We roll this tape up to about there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stop. We're going to cut it off here. And we're going to fold it over to give ourselves a little bit of a clasp. So here's what the trim part looks like, about an inch, inch and a half overhang. And we're going to fold that over on itself. And voila, there's the finished tab. So before, remember how, well, I don't know if you saw it, you can see how it was all hanging off. Now it's nice and flat to the box when it's closed. And this overhanging tab is folded back on itself so it cannot stick. So you just grab that and pull it down, and that releases the box. And you can see the double tape down there as well. So nice and easy release, no sticking. Put the box in, press this up, press the tab flat, box self-supporting. Alright, so again here, the heavier the box, the longer the tab. Mine's super light, so an inch and a half will be fine. If it's heavier, you have all this room to use. I wanted a lower profile on the tab, but functionality's got to come first. This is plenty for what I'm doing. If you're doing more, do more. Alright, so here's my finished triple-decker box. Have tabs at different locations because of this bandage, but it works. Self-supporting. I don't actually have enough toys to completely fill this thing yet, collectibles I should say, but still going to take you on a quick walkthrough. So you got the top layer, full of units. It's got the double decker going on the top layer, hold all these tanks and such, and the battle suits. Close that, lock it down, come over here, unlock it, take the top off, second layer, all for small miniatures, very thin as you can see, thinner than any other layer. Bring the lid back. Well, actually, let's just leave it all open and on. That's the easiest. Okay. Come over here. Unlock the last two tabs. Pull this off. And there you go. This is a completely clean bed. I have nothing to put in it yet. Again, I have way more space than I have units at the moment. So that's what the full box looks like. Yep, it's a lot of space.
Well, that's it. I've been editing this video for way too long now and I look crazy. This is by far the longest video I've ever made. If you actually sat through it, congratulations, but there were just a lot of details and a lot of little tricks that I needed to show you if you were going to do this right. As always, I hope that if it was worth your time, you'll make it worth my time. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Check out my channel from time to time, and for God's sakes, comment. Tell me what you'd like to see next. Tell me any problems you're having that you think I might be able to solve, or any kind of builds you'd like to see me do. let me know. I'm also going to give this box a paint job, which I'm going to post here when it's done. If you don't see anything there, that's because I'm being, well, I'm not going to say lazy because it's going to take me like 30, 40 hours to paint this thing down, but I just haven't had time yet. So that's all for today. See you next time.